Hello, everyone, and welcome to really our last week of new content. Yay! Congratulations, you made it this far. I know the last few weeks have probably been a little bit more challenging than the first several, but that's programming. Again, the goal here is to try. Keep trying, listen to the videos on the solution, and then apply it to the next one. If you keep doing that, the goal you'll be doing fine. All right. So we're going to continue on with really our discussion on modularity, uh, procedures, passing data, and functions, which you guys did last week. This week and really the next couple of weeks, your final project will include all that. So your goal is to keep practicing, listening, and try to understand. Once again, if you do have issues, contact your instructor or set up an appointment with your instructor to actually get some help. All right. What we're going to talk about now, though, is we're going to go into the last topic again, really kind of alluding to what we've been doing up to this point. But we want to introduce this whole concept of multiple forms. Okay? What do we mean by that? Well, everything we've done up to this point, we've had one form. When we come into our program, we usually have one form here, and we have been populating this form with our common controls and so on that we've learned up to date. Everything's been great. Yay for that. In reality, most applications that you work with in the real world have more than one form to it. Okay, web pages, actually, you know that there's a lot of web pages, and even when we do a Windows-based application, it's more than just one form. Usually, the application is complex enough or deep enough, or whatever you want to say it, because of what the application is doing, and there's multiple forms to it. I'm sure you've worked with several different applications throughout your life, and with that, you know there's multiple forms. So we need to know as programmers how to do this. Here's the good news. The first couple videos here are actually pretty simple. Creating a multiple form application is very easy. The first step is you will sit back and you have your form here, all right? And it's going to Solution Explorer. I'm going to go ahead and pin this. You have your form. So what we're going to be doing now, what this video is going to walk through, is how to add more forms to your project. This is your project right here. This is considered the project. This is the solution, but this is considered the project. Multiple form example is what I named this project. You probably name them your assignments underscore your initials if you did it correctly. All right. I have one form underneath here. All this right here is stuff you really don't need to pay attention to. Okay, it has nothing to do with anything that you need to deal with at this point in time. But this form is exactly what we were actually working with over here. All right. Up to this point, I have not had you name the form. And that's on purpose, just because it's one less thing to name. We really don't reference the form from code, or we have not referenced the form from code up to this point, meaning now we are. So we're going to be referencing the form from code. So with that said, I want you to name it. Here's the best way of naming this. It's the quickest way, is go right here to Solution Explorer and do a right click and hit rename. See that right there? And then what I want you to do is name what the form's going to be doing. In this case, in my multiple form example I'm going to be doing for you, the form is going to be the main form, our main form for navigation. We're going to navigate to a couple forms. Not every application has a main form. You could actually navigate to another form based upon any kind of form. But in this one, we're going to have this little navigational form to demonstrate how to create more forms and how to open up these forms and so on. So I'm going to call this main. So FRM, see that lowercase FRM? That is the Hungarian notation for the forms. Got it? The .vb afterwards must stay there, okay? So you can say yes to that. When it says, do you want to cascade the naming, the answer is yes, meaning what it did for you in the properties. If I highlight this and go to properties, that little text box that showed up, by changing the name in the Solution Explorer, it changed the name in the properties of the form also. So that worked out really well. If you do it opposite, meaning you change the name in the properties first, it will not change the names in the Solution Explorer. You want the name in the Solution Explorer. Okay, that's where you want it more than anything. Okay, based upon what we're going to be doing. Make sense? Okay. One other thing, I think I started saying this. I want to make sure I said it. The .vb. Make sure that extension is there. If for some reason you overwrite that extension, your form will not work, and really your project will not work. And you may have to start all over again. So make sure the .vb extension is always there. Do not lose that. okay? So, all right, so that's how you name your form, first piece. Second piece is, how do we add more forms to our application? So here's what I'm going to be doing. As I told you before, I'm going to kind of create a little form here. Let's see, I'll go here, and I'm going to call this the main, I don't know, main. We'll just call this main. Just keep it simple, okay? And I'm going to bring a couple buttons over. And we'll go ahead, I'm going to highlight these buttons a little bit, make them the same size, and we'll do something like that. There you go. And I'm going to bring one more button over too. Should have done that with it, but that's pretty close for sake of this. So I've brought 3 buttons over, and we're going to have this go to, oh, I don't know, what could I do? This is going to go to, this button is going to take us to a form that's going to talk about, spending more time thinking about this. You probably don't really want to hear me say it, but we're going to go to a button that's going to talk about the state of Ohio. There we go. Okay. And so this is going to be the Ohio button. So if I click on this button, it's going to take me to a form that's going to describe the state of Ohio. All right. This one will do. So this button is going to take me to, let's see, let's get back to our properties again. And this one will take us to, see, text will say Kentucky. Okay. And for Indiana people out here, I'm sorry, I'm just going to stick with these two, and I'm going to go ahead and name this button BTN Kentucky. Kentucky, there you go. All right. My final button here will just be a simple exit button, like we already know about. BTN exit. Okay. And we'll come down here and name that exit. All right, is everybody with me? So in this case here, I created one form that's going to, based on I click on these buttons, I'm going to go to another form. I have not created these forms yet. That's the next step. So I need to add 2 more forms to my project, one that will be for Ohio and one that will be for Kentucky. Does that make sense? All right, and so yeah, so we'll stop. So that's what we're going to be doing. So in this case here, how do I do this is this. I go to the project, okay? So I'm going to highlight the project. I clicked on the project up here. You see that right there? I did a right click, and I highlighted it. I'm going to do a left click now, and this menu will come up. What we want to do is add to, we want to add to the project. And what we're going to do is add a Windows form. Here you are right there. You see that right there? We can add a Windows form, a module, a class, user controls, and so on. But in this case, what we're going to do is add a Windows form. So we'll go ahead and click on that. Everything is cool here. All we got to do now at this point is name it. And so this is going to be Ohio. And once again, make sure it has the .vb afterwards, or it will not work. I'll say add. And you'll see what happens here. Ohio now becomes part of my project. I should rename that though, because I didn't do a very good job with that. It should be FRM Ohio. Let me go ahead and do that. FRM Ohio. There you go. And say yes. All right. And we'll do this again for Kentucky. Okay. Click on it. Do a left click, right click, I should say, right click. And I'm going to add, see that right there, and Windows form. And I'm going to come down here, and this is going to be for Kentucky. So FRM Kentucky. Pretty simple. This is how you add forms. All right. Now, as you see, I actually have all 3 forms up here in my designer. All right. So in this case here, very quickly for Ohio, I'm not going to do much here. I'm just going to put, I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to put a button here to close it, and I'll put a label here to just give a little description about Ohio. So Ohio, what will I say here? Let's see, label, Ohio is okay, but Kentucky is great. You guys all agree with that? I'm sure you're sitting there going, what the heck? All right, and so obviously I'm from Kentucky. And so with that said, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another exit button here. This will be exit. Now, these forms that we're calling can have anything. As a matter of fact, when we get into this a little bit more, we will see what we can do. I mean, we can literally have, you know, a ton more. It could be its own, you know, a program, right? And that's what it's basically going to be. And this is a very small example right now, so I can just demonstrate how to add forms to it. And then my next video will show you how to call these forms from each other, all right? Later on, I'll have a video that will now take you a little bit deeper in how we can really build an application with multiple forms. All right, so we're stepping into this as we kind of go to it. Okay, so that's Ohio. We'll get to Kentucky, and so what I'll do is the same type thing. I'll add a label so I don't completely tick off all my Ohio friends out there. I'll say Kentucky is okay, but Ohio is great. All right, so there you go. Equal billing for each. I don't want to upset anybody here, especially since I do work at Cincinnati State and since that is in Ohio, right? Okay, so I'm going to have a button here also that will go ahead and be my exit button too. So BTN exit. Is everybody with me so far? Okay, so what I've done in this very simple situation here, don't make this any harder than it is I created 3 forms in my project. So hopefully you get the idea of how I add forms. All right. Yes, we're going to keep adding to this and adding to this, but right now we step into this very simply. And this is how you add forms. So once again, highlight the project, right click, add new form. And that's how you add a new form to your program. Okay. In the next video, we'll show you how to go from one form to another, call those forms.